It started with silence. The kind that creeps up on you, makes your skin crawl, and whispers that something's not right. Malik wasn't new to silence. Growing up black in a mostly white neighborhood, he'd seen his fair share of cold shoulders and forced smiles. But this was different. It was a Tuesday afternoon when he walked into Riley's General Store, a place that had stood in the town of Briarwood for over 60 years. Malik had passed it hundreds of times, but never once stepped inside. Not because he was afraid, but because of the stories. Whispers. That's all they were. Kids in high school saying black folks weren't welcome. That old man Riley didn't sell to their kind. Malik never believed in ghost stories. He didn't believe in that one either. But he should have. The bell above the door jingled when he stepped in. That was the last sound he heard for the next 30 seconds. 3 people were inside. A woman by the canned goods aisle. A young guy near the back freezer. And behind the counter, the man himself. Mr. Riley. White beard. Suspender straps. Eyes like chipped ice. Every single one of them froze. It was like Malik had brought a storm cloud with him. The woman clutched her purse. The kid took a step back. And Mr. Riley? He didn't say a word. Just stared. Malik cleared his throat and forced a smile. Afternoon, he said, trying to keep it casual. Just need a bottle of water. Nothing. Not even a nod. He walked toward the fridge anyway. Every step echoed. The kid watched him like he was stealing something. Malik's fingers touched the fridge handle, and then it happened. A voice, low, gruff. You lost. It was Riley. Malik turned slowly. No, sir. I said I was just getting water. Riley didn't blink. We don't sell to strangers. Malik gave a small laugh, confused. I'm not a stranger. I live 2 blocks down. My mom teaches at Briarwood Middle. I know who your people are, Riley said. And like I said, we don't sell to strangers. The woman near the cans gave a nervous glance, then quietly slipped out the door. Malik stood there, heart thumping. He could have walked out, could have left it alone. But something made him stay. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was the way Riley looked at him, like he wasn't even human. Sir, Malik said calmly, it's 2025. You can't just deny service because of how I look. Riley chuckled, but it wasn't friendly. Son, you don't know nothing about this town. You think you're the first one to come in here waving some moral flag? He leaned over the counter. Let me tell you something your mama should have taught you. There are things older than laws, older than right and wrong. There are traditions. Malik blinked. Traditions. Behind him, the door jingled again. 2 men walked in. Big, quiet, both wearing old hunting jackets. Malik didn't recognize them, but the way they nodded at Riley said enough. You got business here, boy. One of them asked, his voice oily. Malik stepped back, gripping the bottle tighter. I'm leaving. Riley smiled. Not wide, not fake, just knowing. You walked in here, he said, but not everyone walks out. Malik's blood ran cold. Was this really happening? He backed toward the door, but the 2 men stepped between him and the exit. No yelling, no threats, just stillness. Like they were waiting for him to do something wrong. One wrong move. And that's when Malik noticed it. Behind the counter, under a dusty old flag, was a faded photo. It showed Riley, younger, standing next to 3 other men, all of them smiling, and all of them wearing white robes. Malik swallowed hard. This wasn't about water. This was about something that had been rotting in this town for generations, and now it was staring him in the face. And he had just walked straight into it. The silence didn't break. It cracked. A low, sharp sound, like something tearing slowly from the inside. Malik's eyes darted around the store. The 2 men in hunting jackets stood like statues in front of the exit, their arms crossed, eyes empty. Riley leaned forward behind the counter, his bony fingers tapping the wood with a rhythm that made Malik's skin crawl. Tap, tap, pause, tap. You don't have to do this, Malik said, voice calm but tight. One of the men, the taller one with a crooked nose, leaned in just enough for Malik to see the scar running down his neck. You should have stayed in your part of town. The shorter one added, should have listened to the stories. Then he whispered it. Just one word. Soft. So soft Malik almost didn't catch it. Stonemore. The name echoed in his head like a gunshot. Stonemore? He knew that name. It was one of those words people in Briarwood didn't say out loud. A place, technically, but also a warning. When Malik was 10, he'd asked his mom why their neighbors always told their kids to never follow the old trail behind the church. She just said, because it leads to Stonemore. And nothing good ever came out of there. Malik had laughed it off. Just more small-town superstition. But now it didn't feel like superstition. What's in Stonemore? Malik asked, stepping slightly sideways, keeping all three men in his view. Riley smiled. Truth. He paused. And a grave or two. Malik's hand clenched around the water bottle. He didn't want to show fear, but every inch of his body screamed to run, to escape, to smash through that door if he had to. Then, out of nowhere, his phone buzzed. A message. From Lena. Hey, you good? Heard you went into Riley's. Please tell me you are not still there. Malik glanced up. The taller man stepped forward. Phone, he said flatly. Malik's heart pounded. No. Wrong answer. The man grabbed for it, and Malik moved. Fast. He spun around, shoved past him, and sprinted toward the shelves. A heavy can fell. Glass shattered. But he didn't stop. He threw the water bottle. It hit Riley square in the chest. The old man grunted, stumbled back. Malik ran. Not for the front door, but through the narrow stockroom behind the counter. He'd seen the layout from a town map years ago. If there was a back exit, it had to be there. He kicked the door open and burst into a dim hallway stacked with boxes and dusty shelves. Footsteps thundered behind him. Someone yelled, but Malik didn't stop. He slammed into a rusted metal door at the end of the hallway, twisted the lock jammed. No, come on. The footsteps grew louder. Closer. Malik backed up and kicked. Hard. Once. Twice. The door gave. He stumbled outside into blinding sunlight and the thick smell of pine trees. The alley behind the store was empty, quiet, too quiet. But Malik didn't wait to process it. He ran, faster than he'd ever run before. Down the alley, across the lot, onto Main Street. People stared as he bolted past, gasping for air, phone still in his hand. He didn't stop running until he reached Lena's house. 15 minutes later, the door opened. Lena's eyes widened. Malik, what happened? He rushed inside, locked the door behind him, and leaned against it like the house itself might vanish if he let go. Riley, he said, breathless. And those men. Her face went pale. You saw them. He nodded. They tried to trap me. One of them said, Stonemore. Lena sat down slowly. I was afraid of that. Malik's pulse finally slowed, but his brain kept spinning. What the hell is Stonemore? Lena didn't answer right away. Instead, she stood, walked over to a dusty bookshelf, and pulled out a thin leather binder. It looked old, like it had been hidden for a long time. You're not going to believe this, she said, but you need to see it. She opened the binder. Photos, newspaper clippings, handwritten notes. One headline stood out. Church fire in Stonemore, 3 dead, no arrests. Dated 1987. Malik frowned. What is this? Lena looked up, her voice barely above a whisper. My grandfather was a pastor in Stonemore. He was one of the people who died in that fire. Malik stared at her. But why would Riley care about that? She swallowed hard. Because he didn't just watch it happen. She met his eyes. He lit the match. Malik stared at Lena like she'd spoken another language. Riley lit the fire. She nodded, flipping through the pages of the old binder with trembling hands. My grandfather, Pastor Elijah Grant, was trying to start a community center in Stonemore back in the 80s. It was going to be a safe place, free meals, tutoring, church on Sundays. Malik leaned over the table. And Riley didn't like that. Lena gave a bitter laugh. He and his friends saw it as a threat. Said Elijah was trying to change the soul of the town. She pointed to a yellowed photo of 4 white men in suits outside a courthouse. Riley was one of them. They were never charged. Town called it an accident. But people knew. Malik's stomach twisted. That's why nobody talks about Stonemore. Because talking gets you hurt, Lena whispered. There was a knock at the front door. Both of them froze. Lena checked the peephole. Her eyes widened. She turned back to Malik, panic rising in her voice. "It's Riley's truck." Malik's heart jumped. "He followed me? Come on." She grabbed his hand and led him through the kitchen to the back door. "We'll cut through the neighbor's yard." They slipped out quietly, creeping past the flower beds and fence. Malik could hear Riley's voice at the front, calm casual, like he was just an old man visiting a friend. But they knew better. They didn't stop moving until they reached Lena's car, a dusty little Honda tucked behind a detached garage. She threw the binder into the back seat and slid behind the wheel. "We're going to the archives. If we can find proof, real proof, he can't hide it anymore." Malik nodded. "Let's do it." The Briarwood Historical Archive sat like a forgotten museum behind City Hall, small, stuffy, and mostly ignored. The clerk barely looked up when they entered. "Back room. Files are alphabetical," she muttered, chewing on a pen cap. Lena led the way. The shelves were packed with records, land deeds, newspaper reels, town meeting minutes. Dust clung to everything. They searched in silence, the air thick with old paper and tension. Then Malik found it. A rusted metal box marked Stonemore, Incident Reports, 1987. He opened it slowly. Inside were 5 folders. The first was thin, just a few typed pages and a Polaroid of the burnt church. The second was thicker. It had interview transcripts. One name appeared again and again, Robert Riley. Malik scanned the lines. Riley claims he was home the night of the fire. Witness saw Riley's truck near the chapel around 11:30 p.m. No conclusive evidence, case closed. Lena's eyes widened as she read over his shoulder. This is it. They knew. They knew and still did nothing. Then Malik flipped to the last page. It wasn't an official document. It was a handwritten letter. "If anything happens to me, tell my daughter to look in the chapel wall." Elijah. Malik blinked. He left something behind. Lena gasped. The old chapel's still standing. Sort of. It's boarded up, but the town never demolished it. They stared at each other. Neither one had to say it. They were going. Night fell fast in Briarwood. The trees loomed taller, the shadows deeper. Stonemore sat just beyond the edge of town, across a crumbling bridge and up a dirt trail. No streetlights, no signs, just silence. Malik's flashlight cut through the darkness as they approached the chapel. The building looked half dead, roof caved in, windows shattered, ivy crawling up the side like veins. But the bones were still there. They stepped inside. Dust rose with every footstep. The wooden floor groaned under their weight. "Where's the wall?" Malik whispered. Lena pointed to the front of the sanctuary. "There, behind the pulpit." They pried loose the rotten wood and found the wall hollow behind it. Malik reached in, heart pounding. His fingers touched something smooth, a small metal box. He pulled it out, hand shaking. Inside was a stack of papers and a cassette tape. Lena held it up. He recorded something. Before Malik could reply, he heard it. Crunching gravel. A car outside. Then, a voice. "Step away from the box, boy." Malik turned. And there he was, Riley, holding a shotgun.